Hi everyone. Welcome to Daily Recaps. Today, I am going to explain an interesting drama film called Fearless. Hope you like it. Enjoy the video and take care. Movie starts with a 10-year-old Yuo and Jia is the son of a martial arts master named Andy. Andy never allows Yuo to take part in training, concerned about his asthma. The kid, however, has a passion for Kung Fu. He tries his best to sneak into his father's classes to learn the basics of it. A geeky youngster named Jinsen is Hu's only friend. He completes all of Hu's calligraphy assignments so that he can focus on training. Andy is currently the second best martial artist in their community, but Zhao, the best, has challenged him, so that is about change. Yuo is anticipating the fight with enthusiasm and is sure that his father will win. Andy has the advantage in the fight and is about to strike Zhao in the head, but his beliefs and fair gameplay stop him from doing so. Taking advantage of his niceness, Zhao readily aids and wins the match dishonorably. Yuo is heartbroken by the incident. Sha's son challenges him to a fight when only the kids are together. Yuo confidently takes up the challenge but is defeated in no time. At this moment, he vows to restore his family's name and be the best martial artist in Tianjin. He and Jinsen go to his father's library and steal his book about martial arts. Then, using the book, he trains day and night without rest. When Yuo finally thinks he is ready, he challenges Zhao to fight again. Zhao accepts the challenge confidently but is instantly proven weak against a trained Yuo. Several years later, Yuo has grown up to become even better in martial arts. His father passed away long ago, along with his wife, who left him with a little daughter. Yuo spoils her since she is his joy and pride in life. After his last fight with Zhao, Yuo has remained undefeated. He has fought several opponents, but none of them were good enough to give him a hard time. Yuo has also gathered a lot of fans and followers over the years. But along the way, he has developed pride and is starting to forget his father's principles. He drinks and parties all the time and lets his disciples focus on having fun more than practicing. He consumes so much alcohol on some days that he neglects to bring his daughter home. He has racked up debt and spent all of his family's resources, but he is carefree. He visits his close friend Jinsen, a wealthy businessman and proprietor of a well-known restaurant, one evening. Yuo treats his followers to unlimited food and drinking until the wee hours of the morning. The assistant to Jinsen reminds him that Yuo has accumulated a large amount of unpaid bills for more than a year. Later that evening, Jinsen makes an effort to reason with Yuo. Jinsen knows that Hu's disciples only like him because he treats them to free food and drinks. He wants Yuo to stay careful of his spending habits, but Yuo thinks Jinsen is just being stingy. The following day, he bumps into his biggest rival, King. He is the only man who hasn't fought with Yuo yet. Since he has also defeated every opponent, King is considered the best in martial arts by many. They get into a slight altercation which hurts Hu's pride. He takes his anger out on his disciples, beating them up while they train. At night, one of his followers has to be brought to him in a stretcher. It turns out that King beat him up for some reason. Yuo assumes that he did it out of spite and is filled with anger. In Jinsen's restaurant, King and his family are celebrating his birthday. Suddenly, Yuo barges in with his people and starts drinking at a nearby table. King asks him to keep their rivalry aside for the night because he doesn't want to fight. But Yuo is in no mood to back down. Jinsen also tries to stop him but is, in turn, insulted. In a fit of rage, he breaks up their lifelong friendship. Now even angrier, Yuo challenges King to a fight and asks him to kneel down if he doesn't want to accept. Everyone gets out of the restaurant for their safety, leaving the fighters alone. They engage in a fierce struggle as their strength and skill are equal. But Yuo doesn't play fairly when he's enraged. He exhausts King with beatings before striking him in the chest with a fatal blow. He passes away right away as a result. When Yuo gets home in the morning, he discovers his mother's body lying on her bed. To exact revenge on King, her killers killed her. He sobs as he mourns her passing before abruptly realizing that his daughter is also present. The biggest surprise of his life awaits him when he enters her room. She is lying on her bed, covered in blood. In her hand is a little pouch that she promised to give him when he returned home. Broken by the deaths he caused, Yuo steps out of the house when his disciples inform him that the man who was beaten up by King had insulted his wife. King did not beat him out of spite but for his wife's honor. Filled with guilt, regret, and sorrow, Yuo doesn't see a reason for him to keep living. He boards the first ship and lies down in a corner, willing to go wherever it takes him. After living in the streets for 6 months, Yuo has enough of life. He tries to commit the unthinkable but is soon saved by a group of people by the river. They bring him to their tribe and take great care of him. But even after gaining consciousness, Yuo goes into depression and doesn't talk to anyone. A blind woman named Moon takes care of him and is worried that he will never get up from the bed. Her experienced grandmother is confident that he will be fine with time. One day, Moon feels Hu's hair and offers to cut it. He walks for the first time in a month and goes to river with her where she helps him cut his hair. Starting that day, he becomes a member of their community. He helps them cook, farm, and do household work. As a year passes, Moon and Yuo start falling for each other. Then, one day, a kid from their tribe is found stealing a cow from a neighboring community. The grandmother and Moon beg for forgiveness from the rival leader. But in accordance with their custom, a mistake should be punished by beating until an incense burns out. Yuo offers to take the beating in place of the child and speaks up for the tribe. Yuo will have to contend with the leader because the punishment for adults is a little different. Yuo can easily defeat him, but he no longer wants to hurt people with his knowledge. He doesn't even defend himself at first, but after some encouragement from the grandmother, he begins to avoid the blows. Despite the incense burning off, the leader is unable to strike him once. He accepts his defeat and praises Yuo. The next day, Yuo, Moon, and the children of the tribe are in the field. The children want to learn Kung Fu from Yuo, but he refuses to teach them. He knows what great power does to people and wants the peaceful village to remain the same. The children also innocently mention that Yuo and Moon are the closest to each other, but the adults ignore the comment. One day, Moon goes to see her parents' grave. This reminds Yuo of his parents and daughter who he abandoned after her death. Now that he is in a better mental condition, he wants to return home to visit their graves. He tells Moon about the plan and she happily encourages him. Yuo promises to return as soon as he can and asks her to wait for him. In the following scene, we see him enter his hometown Yanjin, which is now an entirely different place. After the fall of the Qing dynasty, several strong nations attacked China and took it over. Tianjin became partially colonized, which caused several foreign residents to reside in the city and influence their culture. Yuo goes to his childhood house, which is now an old shabby place. The family servant Lei Fu welcomes him in. He has tried his best to keep things as they were, but after Hu's departure, a bunch of creditors flip the entire house to look for money. Yuo goes to his family's grave and apologizes to his father. He finally understands why he didn't land the punch years ago when he could have won the title of the best player. After that, he goes to apologize to Qui's family and bows down in front of his shrine. As he wanders around the city, he sees that a wrestler named Hercules O'Brien is challenging Chinese people in a fight. He hasn't lost in any of his fights, and he's sure to win the next one. Yuo wants to take him on in order to preserve Chinese heritage, but he will need some cash to do so. He visits Jinsen's home as his next stop and expresses regret for what happened years earlier. He promises to have gained knowledge from his mistakes. Jinsen doesn't waste any time in giving him the money through an assistant after learning why he needs it. Then Hercules faces off against Yuo in Shanghai's 1909 race club. At first glance, someone petite like Yuo could never beat Hercules, who is double the size of him. Before the match begins, Yuo requests that he and Hercules fight with honor and civility. Taking advantage of the language barrier, the announcer mistranslates Hu's request to "he wants to kick your butt," making Hercules laugh. The fight starts, and Yuo instantly gains the upper hand. As the match gets intense, Yuo saves the opponent from being impaled to nails on the side of the ring. As a good sportsman, Hercules accepts his defeat, making Yuo the victor. Yuo gains fame from the single fight and is called Shanghai. He meets Jinsen there, who proposes they form Qinwu Athletic Association, a place where they teach Chinese students the art of Kung Fu. That way, even with the constant foreign pressure, they can preserve their heritage. Meanwhile, a group of officials from the foreign chamber is not fond of Hu's growing popularity among the Chinese public. They fear that his wins against the foreign fighters may trigger anti-foreign sentiments among the Chinese people. Therefore, They suggest a match between Yuo and 4 foreign champions consecutively on a single day in order to ensure he loses in the ring the next time. Mr. Mita, the Japanese representative, promises to put an end to Yuo for good this time. Yuo agrees to participate in the challenge despite the fact that it is challenging and clearly designed to make him lose. One day before the big fight, he meets his rival, the Japanese champion Tanaka. They talk over tea and befriend each other. Tanaka is a fair and respectable sportsman like Yuo, but unlike the people who are sponsoring him. Cut to the day of the fight. Yuo is made to go against 3 fighters from around the world, but none of them last in the ring for more than 2 minutes. Yuo manages to defeat all 3 without breaking a sweat. Lastly, he goes against Tanaka, who apologizes for the unfair match and asks him if they should reschedule. Yuo says it's fine, and the first round starts. They fight using weapons of their choice. Yuo uses a Sanjigen and Tanaka uses a katana. Amidst the intense battle, they accidentally exchange weapons. Tanaka is not very good at handling a Sanjigen, so to make it a fair fight, Yuo offers to exchange weapons. The holdup causes the first round to end in a draw. Yuo drinks poison tea as he rests before the next round because Mr. Mita wants him to lose no matter what. Yuo collapses shortly after the round begins and immediately starts coughing up blood. Tanaka demands that the fight be stopped to ensure the fighter's safety. But when Yuo registers he has been poisoned, he wishes to continue as he is going to die anyway. Even when exhausted and seconds away from death, Yuo manages to deliver a final blow to Tanaka's chest, using the same technique that killed King. However, he holds the punch back this time, learning from his mistakes. But just then, he collapses. Tanaka declares Yuo the winner, knowing that he held back on the punch deliberately. In the end, Yuo falls into his friend's arms and dies. Tanaka angrily belittles Mr. Mita for resorting to killing a man for his pride, and he calls him a disgrace to Japan before storming off. In the last scene of movie, whose spirit reaches the field outside Moon's house, she also runs to him and sensing his presence even though she is blind. That's all from the film. Thanks for watching. If you really want more interesting videos like this, then hit like and subscribe to support the daily recaps. See you again. Take care.